Hello everyone, Anita here, and welcome to another Animal Artists Collective piece. This is a third piece already. It doesn't feel like we're just starting out. It's a new thing. It really feels a little bit more established. And that makes me so extremely happy that, we are going strong. Because this month, there will be 2 more artists joining us in addition to the roster from the previous month. So 2 more artists. One is Kat from Meow Meow Kapow, and the other one is Amy from Amy Howard Art. I would highly recommend checking both of them. They're amazing artists and a great addition to the team, I think. I really am excited, guys. I don't think I'm gonna make much sense today. I'm gonna try my best. So the theme for this month is wetlands. And from now on, we're doing it bi-monthly, just every other month. So just in case you forgot. And if you don't know what an Animal Artist Collective is, there is a very, very good professional description down below. But it's basically a group of artists who paint with animals in mind. And then the profits from the sales of the pieces that we are painting, at least 50% of the profit, is going to the charity or the conservation charity of the artist's choice. In my case, it's the World Wildlife Fund this time, because they are supporting the cause that I am kind of painting. Well, or rather the area that I was inspired by. So, as I mentioned, the theme for this month has been wetlands, and you guys chose this one for us on Facebook. And I was really excited about it, but also very intimidated because, I'm guessing that this kind of feelings are going to be associated with these pieces every single time. Because while I really love animals, I'm not really that familiar with many of them. I'm just like, oh, raw animals, pretty. But I don't know much about particular animals. I don't have that technical knowledge or the background knowledge. So it is a very good opportunity to discover new animals, know a little bit more about them. In my case, it's also a good way to kind of widen my way of thinking, I guess, because when I was researching for this piece, and as you can see, I am painting a moose today. I actually went first very far away before realizing that I should probably start looking for my topics somewhere a little bit closer to home, which is Europe, because I'm kind of representing this area, and I feel like I have easier access to the materials about animals that live in Europe. So, for example, did you know that moose is called a moose in America? However, in Europe, it's called an elk. I didn't know that. I actually thought that elk was a kind of a deer, which is true, but not in case of the Europe, because we have to call our stuff different. So, I have been inspired actually by my home country, Poland. By this natural reserve called Biebrza National Park. It's surrounded, it is an area of a river called Biebrza, and the surrounding areas are marshes, so it fits perfectly within the wetlands theme. And the one animal that is really this animal that just lives there in that area of the Biebrza River is the moose, or the Eurasian elk, how you call that specific type of moose. Because there are different ones. I didn't know that either. So for me, actually, the only thing that I thought about, when I thought about moose, I thought about just a little bit bigger deer. That was my initial thought. And it can be it can be any different, because actually moose is huge. I didn't realize how big they are. They can be up to 3 meters long. So just imagine 3 meters long. That's longer than your bed. And then 2.5 meters high, which for me, I just keep, I don't have like this measure of space in my head. So I compare it to the size that I know something is of that size. So in my case, I was thinking that the average room size, height in in houses is 2.5 meters. So that's like just as high as the room. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how big they are. And also, I really like that the ratio of body to leg is so really long. So like disproportional. So I wanted to kind of implement that somehow, because as you can see, I'm going towards a little bit more of that fantasy themed piece that I just love so much. A little bit more I feel than before, because I'm bending the I just, before, like in the previous pieces, I was trying to keep the animal to be an animal, to be the real animal. However, in this case, I'm actually painting this moose as sort of a protective spirit of the forest. And as you can see, you don't see it very well at this point. I will be putting some color on that character later. But there's a little girl sitting on the moose's back. And the story is that this girl has got lost in the marshlands, and this moose is keeping her, like bringing her back to safety. And this kind of it comes to a second part of my picture that you can't even see at this point, because I really like folklore and legends. So I was trying to kind of tie in something legendary or folklory within the pieces that I've been doing. That's kind of something that I started last piece, and so I've been trying to keep that up. And in this case, I had a whole plethora of the Slavic pagan beliefs to pick from. Now, if you are not familiar with Slavic folklore, mythology, I don't know how to call it precisely, then maybe you are familiar with The Witcher, the game, because The Witcher game has actually, the Witcher books have really been inspired by the Slavic paganism and folklore. So one of the characters in those stories is a god or a spirit called Leshy, which is a protective spirit of the forest. And I really liked reading about it, probably even more than about the moose. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just really drawn to anything like fantastical and mythological and magical. So I imagined that the moose was kind of not a helper, but that they were like kind of working together with the protector of the forest. Because the thing about the Leshy is that he is going to look into your head when you enter the forest, and based on your intentions is going to either help you or hinder you. And there are actually a lot of stories that, for example, in the times of war, a soldier would go into the forest to seek refuge, and he would be going through the forest, being pursued by other soldiers, the enemy soldiers. And while he had a very safe passage, he could hear that the enemy soldiers were getting tangled and tripping, and just everything was in their way. And of course, it can be just a coincidence, but it can also be Leshy trying to help the soldier who just was running away from the enemy. In a similar way, if you're going into the forest and trying to, for example, cut trees or destroy the nature, Leshy is also going to get in your way. However, in the case of my little girl, she's just an innocent child who got lost. So Leshy is, moose is the marshland animal. So I figured if Leshy would ask someone to help, it would be definitely the moose, as it's a big animal and it's very good with water. And I thought it would fit. Because while I can't really, I'm not like a technical person, but some things really stick with me. For example, one of them is that moose is a very good swimmer, something I couldn't imagine. And also the flowers you can see me painting here. This is my rendition, not a realistic painter here, okay? Realism painter. But this is my rendition of marsh, buttercups. You know, the little yellow flowers that you see next to the rivers and generally everywhere here at the moment in springtime. Those yellow flowers are actually a part of mooses, part of the diet of the moose. So they eat them, which it was kind of funny to think, because I don't know why I thought they would be, eating just meat, but they don't. They eat plants. I don't know why I thought that. I mean, it's kind of makes sense when you think about it, but yeah. And they're also really, really good swimmers, so it kind of made sense to kind of pull that into the illustration. Now, this illustration is also inspired by a particular picture. I looked through. I have never been to Biebrza marshes. Well, they're not actually Biebrza marshes. This is a Biebrza National Park, and then inside of that park there is a area called, I believe, Red Marshes, something like that. Red Marsh. I think that's the translation. That would Red Bogs, Red Marshes, and when I was looking through, I've never been there, but I was looking at a lot of pictures, and one of them really stuck with me as well. It was this beautiful picture of those trees half growing from the water, because there is just like so much water gathered, and the trees, they look like they were on little tiny islands because of all the roots and stuff. So I really, really loved that, and I kind of stuck with me. I wanted to implement it somehow. And then I pulled from those flowers, and I've just surrounded everything with the marsh goldenrods, buttercups. I just before this video, just before recording the voiceover, I actually looked it up and I forgot already. I am so bad at conveying information. This is just like real information, you know. This is this is just, oh my god, I can't believe it. But definitely it was really challenging for me to paint them, because I was trying to stay a little bit true to how they really looked like, having a little bit of green in the middle and being very, very bright yellow with this dark contrasting leaves. Now, I'm not staying really true to how they really, really look like, but whenever you see pictures of those flowers, they grow in those just half round, bunches. And so that's what I was going for, this half round shape through the entire picture. Now, this picture, I'm going to talk about the Leshy character a bit more later, but this entire picture, as you can see, I'm painting it in parts, and that's because I will be, I've decided to just try and implement that layered style that I've been practicing lately, and put it into a more story-like illustration and see how that would work, what techniques I could use, how to put this whole scene together, and also how much time it would take me. Now, of course, it took much longer than my normal illustrations, but mostly because it was a trial and error kind of thing. Putting a layered illustration together is much, much different than normal illustration. But I don't know what it is. It's so much more satisfying to me. So here I am. I've tried to paint mostly on scraps. I've pulled a lot of my Arches scraps, and I tried to kind of all the pieces. I always, before I start the layered illustration, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, especially when it's so complicated, I make just a little, like a, prototype, I guess. It always really reminds me of more architectural things, in to a certain degree, because I really had to figure out how those pieces would actually layer over each other, how to, like, especially here when I'm painting that little bit of of the marsh, of the water, how will I cut it out when it doesn't have a shape? It's water. So I've decided to use little circular patterns, little circles, and to just layer that. But it really took a little bit of thinking in a very satisfying way. I don't remember last time I was this satisfied with painting in general. Not this particular painting, but with painting in general. So as you can see here, I don't really sketch often, but I had a sketch prepared to kind of get the idea of what I wanted. I'm going to tell you straight away that this reindeer, why? Anita, this moose. Fun fact, by the way, that moose back in the day, that's something probably why I'm getting this reference. Back in the day, like long time ago, several hundreds of years ago, moose was actually thought of sometimes as a reindeer or even a unicorn. So I really want to see now a unicorn moose that's uni-moose, corn moose. That would be so hilarious. But yes, but this particular moose, and then I completely forgot what I wanted to say. Okay, let's just go back to what we know. Here I'm just going back into the process of adding. I've layered all my watercolor first, and I'm not showing you everything I've painted because there was just so many details. And I tried painting during daytime this time because the quality of my videos has been a little bit questionable in the past. Like, I wasn't happy with it. You guys probably didn't notice, but I wasn't happy with the lighting and the just focus and everything. So I tried to paint during the day and pay more attention to light and focus and blah, 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 all these stuff. So I was a little bit limited on the time I could paint in. Like, the good light in my studio is rather limited. So I've limited myself to just painting as one piece of everything at a time. But I still, as you can see on both sides of this little bush here, I have 2 other ones to finish. And then I cut everything out off camera as well. I finish everything off camera, and so that, you know, you guys can see the fun parts, the assembly. Because the assemble part is probably the most satisfying, at least to me. But as you can see here, I've painted in the character. I'm adding a little bit of colored pencil, as is tradition to everything. So everything on this moose and everything in the background has a little bit of colored pencil, except the lightest part, which didn't need it. Now, I've used quite a lot of colored pencil in here, and because I had to cut everything out, I've actually sealed every single piece before cutting it out because I was afraid that I would smudge everything. So I had to be sure that everything was painted, so I didn't have to add anything like on top of it because I don't have a workable fixative. This is just, you know, a basic watercolor sealant. Now this character, he is really probably the furthest away from a real animal than that I've done for this collective. I was really torn whether or not I wanted to go there because I tried my best to like concentrate on animals and keep them as real as possible, but it's not me. I really, you know, I the moment I thought about painting the moose and the moment I thought about incorporating the character of Leshy, I really wanted this to, it was a story, the story needed to happen. And so I really wanted to make the moose look a little bit more like a spirit or just, you know, something not real. So I made his limbs longer. I made him a little bit more on the blue side. It's just, you know, that's just what I do. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. Now, here, as you can see, I'm kind of want to add a little bit of a background layer to lay all those pieces on, and I'm painting on top of that mixed media bamboo paper from the Hahnemuhle. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it, but look what this is doing. There is a bold spot on my paper, and I have no idea how it got there. It's just the paint just didn't want to stick to that one spot. That paper is really questionable, but it's a really good paper because it's sturdy, like as a mixed media paper. So for this layer, as you can see, that I didn't have to paint so much on, and it's just really a background layer. it didn't bother me so much. So now that I have my background, it's a very simple, this is, you know, like trees in the distance, and I'm adding the little background, and here I'm taping the moose at the bottom only, because I know that I want to tuck behind him. So I need to have space, but I don't want him to move. And this is here that character of Leshy that I was talking about in the beginning, or rather my interpretation of him, because I didn't want to make anything, like I've said, I wanted to focus on the moose. I've already kind of went away from, you know, I've added a character, a little girl is just a random character. And I didn't want if I've added a very fleshy, let's put it this way, like a full fleshed out character of Leshy, I think he would really take over. And I also wanted him to really blend in with the forest and really kind of have the idea that he's made of the wind, and just, I don't know, I wanted him to be slightly transparent. So I thought that I could use vellum. I have those 2 sheets of vellum, still the same 2 from the last video. I've had the same yellow and the green one. And and I've decided to use both of them to kind of layer them one on top of the other and create a little bit of like this fluffy, you know, coat made out of wind. And it was a little bit problematic because there aren't many places where I could hide the tape. And despite what I was saying in the previous video, that the tape was doing really nicely on the under the vellum, you can still really see it. You always can see any adhesive under vellum. So you have to be very, you know, Okay, you have to have a strategy when you want to tape in vellum, because if you look closely, you can kind of see where it is. So I'm trying my best to tuck it behind just objects, as the flowers. Some of the adhesive is tucked behind the legs of the moose. Behind the one antler. There was supposed to be a second antler. Oh, that's what I wanted to say in the beginning. There was supposed to be a second antler, but it just would be covered with all the elements. I was like, nah, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it out. So here, what I'm doing is, you can see that adhesive really well, but I really wanted to paint some like little fireflies, I guess, because this picture really reminded me of my old styled pictures, and I've always added little fireflies whenever I could. So I just felt like adding some. So what I did here is that I've hid the adhesive under the layer of white, and that worked perfectly fine. So basically, you know, that's pretty much it for the picture. I am so extremely happy with how this one turned out. It took me a lot longer than my regular illustrations. Not too long, but still a lot longer. But the effect is so good, and I'm so extremely happy with how it just looks like. So if you like it too, please let me know in the comments. I know you guys don't mind me making these layered illustrations, which is a good thing because I love it. But yeah, that's it for this painting. While I'm showing you the little close-ups, I would also like to highly encourage you to check the playlist in the description. There will be plenty of other videos from other artists, because we are all releasing the videos around the same time. So all the videos from the collective will be available for you to watch. I will be doing so myself. I will be spending a whole evening just watching the videos. And if you would like to purchase this painting and help, you know, polish marshes, yep. This painting is available on my Etsy store, and the link is also in the description. For now, I won't be releasing any prints until this painting is sold. So fingers crossed, because I love it and I want to scan it, and it's so beautiful. So excited. Okay. Thank you so very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!